Welcome to another episode of Creative on Purpose Live. This is a show dedicated to helping seasoned solopreneurs craft a business that funds and fits their ideal lifestyle. I could not be more delighted to have one of my oldest and dearest friends, I mean, in digital years, which are kind of like dog years, I guess. Uh, Brie Willey is here. Brie Willey, excuse me. And
Willie, you're good.
Willie, okay, sorry. I always get
You're
it
good.
wrong. There's two
Everyone
L's.
does.
I should know that. But Brie
No, you're
Bree
good.
is here. Bree is a friend, is a client, and is a business owner, an independent entrepreneur who I really respect and admire. Just not just in what she's doing, but how she goes about doing it. So, Bree, welcome to the broadcast. Why don't we begin by having you introduce yourself to the viewers in any way that you think is pertinent, relevant, or otherwise what you want.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Brie Willey, and I'm a therapist and a business nerd, and I'm a nerd too. So I love like sci-fi. I just finished watching Twin Peaks, and I am totally nerding out about that because they don't close loops on that show. I finished it, and there are so many loops open. I need to write a blog post about it. So, anyway, sidetrack. Hi.
That's really awesome. So, when you say that you just finished watching Twin Peaks, I finished watching Twin Peaks in the early '90s. Well, I can't remember
Uh-huh.
exactly when it was on. So, I was watching it episode by episode, week by week, season after season. I'm guessing that. Are you saying that you just finished watching it for the first time,
Yes.
streaming all the way through? Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. We bought it actually. We buy physical media. So if we can, we'll still stream stuff. But I have all of it, like the movie, the new season. Did you know they had a newer season in
No. Oh,
2017?
look at you showing me stuff and teaching me things.
Yes. So, yep, I could totally sidetrack us on all that.
Okay, okay. Well, I'll have to look that up because I remember that show was an actual like phenomenon when it was initially on, and the two co-stars were just the biggest thing since sliced bread back in those days. I do remember there was a movie that came out that maybe was an attempt to wrap up where they had left off, but I don't think even that did that. So
It's in
I'll have
it.
to. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I do remember it being a really fantastic series. Well, you and I already know each other through the Solopreneur Success Circle community, through our work together in the Close the Gap program, and of course, we've done
Mhm.
some one-on-one coaching as well. Um, and I know that primarily you think of yourself or your primary income source is your therapeutic practice. You're a licensed therapist who is also doing some work, creating a side hustle, creating some additional income sources, and helping other people do the same. And so
Mhm.
the first question is always, I'm guessing little 9-year-old Bree did not wake up one morning and say, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I want to, or maybe you did. Maybe at 9-year-old Bree was had her stuffed animals lined up outside her door and was taking them one at a time and helping them deal with the realities of their situation. But just if you don't mind sharing a little of your backstory, how did you come to be doing what you're doing now?
Oh, good question. Yeah, 9-year-old me, I wanted to be an architect. So, yeah, I did write around then, I think my first short story, but so I was always very creative and artistic. I thought I'd be doing something like that more. And I feel like I'm doing more of that now. So it kind of came full circle. But how did I get into therapy? That's kind of a long story. Seeing people struggle and wanting to help them, and give them some tools and maybe learn more about myself, that kind of got me on the path. Um, you know, as I've come to understand myself better, I realized lately I'm neurodivergent. I didn't know that until, this last year. Um, But it makes a lot of sense because in school, I every course I took, it almost sidetracked me into a whole new career. But when I took the psychology class, I was intrigued and I started, I guess, nerding out about psychology. And then it just took me to the next step and the next step. And I mapped it out and finally got there and got my license. And that was a very short way of describing it, but it took a very long time.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's interesting that I think oftentimes the things that we choose as our, career path or our vocational path, end up being attempts at solving a challenge or achieving some aspiration that we have first. So, like my youngest son went to school and got, began well, he actually began in law enforcement, then decided to go into psychology. And we always used to joke, oh, he's trying to figure out how bad we screwed him up, type of thing. But I remember when I was in college and took some psychology courses as part of my teaching certification, that I was like, psychology is a really fascinating thing. And it, for me, what's comes up with your reflection on like the things that you used to do as a kid is I have this idea that this assertion I've been putting out and working through with clients that are becoming lies and being more of what we've always been, and that often taking a look in the rearview mirror at what really lit us up as kids, like maybe even before we got corrupted by institutionalized education, never mind institutionalized occupation. Those are the things that probably speak more to our talents and our dreams and aspirations and our instincts and intuition. Like I loved writing. I used to type out books on my dad's old manual typewriter. I created a newspaper for the house in the neighborhood. Did
Aw.
made my own puppets and put on puppet shows with a friend for the neighborhood kids. I did
Oh.
like so many things that I did as a kid. I'm not saying like I want to go into journalism now or I want to become a fiction author or anything like that, but I do incorporate a lot of the things that I really love doing as a kid into what I do today, and it sounds like you do too. And even that
Mhm.
that impulse to be an architect. I mean, in a way, you are still an architect. It's just you're not putting up brick and mortar buildings or built sculpting things in with I beams. You're helping build people from the ground up,
Ooh.
through investigation of their past and helping them navigate their current challenges and past trauma and all that sort of thing. So I just always think that's really kind of fascinating that if we look back, it always makes sense, doesn't it? Like in
It does.
retrospect.
Yeah. That was so insightful. I'm an architect just in a different way now. I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's our lives are in some ways, engineering and design projects, and engineering is something that relies heavily on system thinking and system reliability. And as you and I have discussed many times, every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it's getting. So if you're kind of
Mhm.
willy-nilly just chasing after shiny objects and wondering why you're not getting closer to the things you really want in life, well, it might be that you're just spending too much time chasing after shiny objects and chasing more and more things when it would actually be getting just a few things right that could actually help you engineer the life, design the life that you actually want to be living. So
Mhm.
what's the thing that you've got your therapeutic practice. I know that you're exceptionally good at what you do there because you have a steady stream of clients and recurring clients and all that sort of thing. And then on the side, you're building these other businesses. Some of them around coaching in particular. What's the thing that you're most excited about right now that you're working on in terms of building that additional income stream?
Mm. Well, I guess I have two answers to that. So, two things I'm excited about, helping other therapists and helpers to find creativity in their work again and to enjoy their work, which is going to be unique for each of them. And probably the thing I'm enjoying the most in terms of a creative piece is writing right now. I'm gonna write, I think, a blog post about Twin Peaks, and I'm so looking forward to that. I've been nerding out with my GPT about it, not it writing, but just kind of going back and forth with it, and it's been so fascinating. And maybe writing, finishing my book, that is really getting me, helping propel me forward. So, um, you know, again, I have to kind of rein that in though at times because what is getting me closer to where I want to be, but I feel like I'm still discovering where I want to be in some ways too.
Mm.
Like that's something you always ask us, but I feel like that's still being revealed to me in a way. So, but I'm moving.
Yeah. Well, I listened to your conversation on your podcast recently with our mutual friend Joseph, and you spoke to this, the two of you, and we talk about this quite a bit in our work together. That you have to have some sort of you have to be aiming at something. You have to know where you're headed, right? If you're going to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be, you have to have some idea of where you want to be.
Mhm.
And Joseph and I talked about this on a live yesterday. You can't know exactly where you're meant to end up or where the best place to end up is going to be. You're just making your best educated guess when you initially set that point on the horizon. And then as you move into that, as you step into possibility and start collapsing time to target, you'll find there are opportunities that you never could have imagined that might make you want to rethink your absolute destination. There might be obstacles that reveal that you're going to need to make some course corrections and destination decisions based on the actual amount of risk or the likelihood that you're going to reach those things. But the underlying dynamic there is that clarity of destination and the clarity of path and your confidence that you can get where you want to go and figure it out as you go comes from actually doing the work right in front of you right now, engaging the field. We talk about that all the time, and both in our work and in our explorations in the arena. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to speak more to that part of it. Like, yes, Bree does have an idea of where she's going, and she's still trying to figure it out. How do you hold like those two truths, and they're kind of contradictory truths uh, next to each other without losing your mind or spinning out in despair.
Yes, good question. And that I think is part of engaging the fields. The more you step forward, like, what are those stories where you're walking onto, like, off of a cliff and there's something actually in front of you? It's like unseen, the path, but unless you step forward, you won't find it. I don't know. It's like some nerd out stories. But it's kind of like that. Like you have to try things and see if it's helping you get closer to where you want to be, and you'll see where you want to be the more you do it. But the point is not sitting, and you're not doing nothing, but the arena talks about, taking what you're learning and applying it, not just absorbing and not doing it. So I feel like I'm doing that, and sometimes feeling forward, sometimes stepping forward, but it's all forward ish.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Just a quick shout out because I've been ignoring them as they come in, but we've got Tope and Joshua, Seth, Liana, Rebecca here. Great to have you all with us. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to drop them in the replies below this video. Um, I love we talked about this quite a bit yesterday, Joseph and I, and you spoke to him about this not too long ago. I mean, a lot of what you're sharing is about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like there is so much like if you are exploring the edges of your understanding and ability and stepping towards some future that is not absolutely clear or absolute, you have to uh, earn the skill or learn the skill of sitting in that tension of unknowing. Like not, you not there's no absolute certainty, but as you were saying, in that, like, yeah, sometimes I'm stepping forward and sometimes I'm failing forward, but either way, you're still moving forward. It's like that's actually the process. Like you have to trust that process. That if you take small steps into possibility that don't risk everything every time, and are being taken with some degree of integrity and intention, that you will continue to move into a better place where there will be more options and where the next decision will be a little bit clearer, and then you just simply do the next right thing. Like we say in our weekly calls, we quote Frozen 2 all the time, just do the next right thing. The problem is sometimes we don't really absolutely know what the next right thing is. So I'd love if you wouldn't mind sharing, since you're really deeply engaged in this process, both in our work and in the arena sessions, how do you go about defining, determining, and deciding what that next right step is going to be?
Ooh, that's good. How do I define the next right step? Um, well, again, as you step out, you see more. Like those where you're in a car and you have to drive to the gate and the gate opens as you go. If you don't step forward, the gate doesn't open, and the next step may not be revealed to you. So it's like you're aware and you're open, you keep open loops. And that's, I feel like you've talked about open loops a lot, and Joseph was going over that in that podcast episode. And I've had to listen to that episode a couple times to understand it better because it's so packed with his wisdom. Um, but the keeping open loops thing, I think that helps with defining the next best right step. And I know these are really, big concepts, but until you try them, you don't see what they mean. So I could talk about this all day, but you got to just try things. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, absolutely. So one of the things that informs one of the resources that informs my thinking about this is a really wonderful book called Teaching a Horse to Fly. And what the author says is that uh, confidence is belief in yourself. Or not getting the quote exactly right. Um, and certainty is belief in your belief. And so we, as human beings, we actually, we crave certainty. This is why so many programs that, we've talked about things that we see on Substack, and we've been, you can see them on any social media platform. Digital marketers sell tools and tactics that are offering tactical tool-based solutions to adaptive problems, right? Because you can't become like, if you're going to become the kind of person that can get closer to what you want with greater velocity and ease, you're going to have to change behavior. Like goal achievement is mostly an adaptive problem. You have to change who you are and how you approach the things that you're pursuing. Because if you just keep doing the things that you're doing, you're going to get the results that you keep getting, right? System reliability, once again. So this idea of, certainty is belief in your belief. I mean, that's like the default human programming. Like that's the way that we're designed. We crave certainty, even though there is almost no certainty in life other than the fact that it will end. So we will leap at an offer that promises some kind of certainty, some sort of, you know,
Mhm.
I got this result in the past, purchase my course and I'll teach you how I did it. Well, that's great. But, the thing about purchasing some program that worked for someone else in the past is number one, you're not them. Number two, it's not the past. And oftentimes, by the time we purchase someone else's program, it's a tactical solution that is not working as well as it did, just because the more people buy the solution, the more people that do it automatically provides diminishing returns and automatically puts fatigue into the marketplace. So I love that.
Mhm.
What you were saying is we have to maintain open loops about what's possible, not just in terms of the opportunities or the choices that we have. But I think the other piece, and you were alluding to this, I think, is we have to maintain open loops about our own potential and ability. Like we always, what I notice, and I'm guessing you notice this too in your therapeutic practice, is people grossly underestimate what they're actually capable of. And I
Mm.
mean,
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
we grossly overestimate what we're capable of. And that's, like we overestimate what we can do in the short term, but we underestimate what we can do in the long term. Like a persistent, committed daily discipline over time creates a compounding effect that will get us closer to what we want with greater ease and velocity as we go. But if we most of the time, I think we're betting everything on Black 36, spinning the roulette wheel, and are surprised and aghast when it doesn't land on Black 36.
Mhm.
I don't know if there's anything there that you'd like to further comment on.
Yeah. Sorry, again, neurodivergent. I was absorbing everything you said, but could you just summarize in a sentence?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, what are when you talk about open loops and you talk about this idea of embracing the uncertainties and at the same time needing to navigate the adversities because you are a woman that is making progress towards a destination. What are the assets and the resources that you use that you leverage to help you stay on track, stay the course, continue moving forward even though the path doesn't get clear as fast as would like, or you're not closing the gap as fast as you would like?
Yes. The rear view mirror is a really good one. Um, and adapting that to me. So the rear view mirror for me is actually right now an Excel document where I'm just taking notes about what I'm observing, what's working, what has worked in the past, what's working now. It's kind of like in the present, but the past. So, keeping track, but not holding too tightly to that either. Um, that is one strategy. Peer support, oh my goodness, like hanging out in your community, building my own community, where we, just hang out and share our strengths and struggles. And, when we're feeling rejected and getting some support there, oh, that was so invaluable. Um, what else? Spending time outside, taking a break, putting it on the shelf, walking away. That helps. Those are just a few of what I use.
Well, I love all of that, but I mean, a lot of it speaks to what you said initially, which is clinging to our like having this deep attachment to our expectations about what's going to happen, or our desire for what we want to happen, right? And that's the Buddha says, attachment is the root of all suffering, right? If we are attached, and it happens not just in terms of our attachment to our aims and aspirations and expectations for what what we want to get, or worse, what we feel entitled to get, right? Like I hear this all the time from clients: Scott, I work so hard and I'm so good at what I do, why am I not succeeding? It's like, well, actually, destiny, life, nobody owes you anything. Like being good at what you do is actually its own reward. Like, spend more time in the present moment dealing with the things that are right around you, and apply your expertise, and generously deliver value to the people immediately around you, and
Mhm.
destiny will kind of take care of itself. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I try to dissuade people from clinging to firmly to revenue goals, right? Like, everybody wants to make $10,000 a month, unless you want to make 15,000 or $20,000 a month. But I mean, generally, the first goal is I want to make $10,000 a month. It's like, well, why does it have to be $10,000 a month? Like, my whole business was transformed for the better by just saying, here's what I need to make every year. Like, this is the number that I have to reach. And what I found is I can reach that number in 4 to 6 months, which means I have half a year or more to do whatever the hell I want. And so, just that simple reframe of saying, well, what if it wasn't this arbitrary monthly income figure that I think I need to make because everybody tells me that's the number that I should be shooting for? What if I just realistically looked at all of my current expenses, personal and business, for people that are watching, most solopreneurs, most independent entrepreneurs, their business and personal expenses are indistinguishable. I mean, there's very few of us that are running our business Excel sheet, completely independent of our personal finances. So, what's
Mhm.
that number? I just actually redid this exercise today because I was like, where do I really stand? Like, what is it that what's the gap that I'm actually trying to close now? And when I looked, I was like, I thought I had was noodling on these ideas where I thought I had to bring in an additional 3 to 5K a month, if I was going to get to my next goal. And then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, if I want to take the next step in where I want to be in terms of what's possible in my life on a day-to-day basis, it's $1,000 a month. Like, that's a solvable problem. That's a much easier solvable problem than 10K a month, where I don't even know
Mhm.
what that 10K means. So I love
Right.
I love just the judiciousness and the thoughtfulness of what you're saying in terms of, like, let's solve the actual problem that we have, and let's define what the next smallest step that's required to move me forward. um, and you also referenced relationships, and I'd love to have you unpack that a little bit more, because my assertion is that's actually the number one asset and resource that we all have instant access to, that if we paid more attention to it, would have an exponential effect on our ability to close the gap between where we are and where we want to be. So, if you don't mind sharing, you know,
Sure.
just how you think about accounting for your relationship assets, and what do you do to enhance the value and leverage the value of your relationship assets?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's ever growing and changing too. One of my goals for this year is to build, and connect and work on collaborations with people. And that's where the rear view mirror comes in handy too, where you're looking at, okay, collaborations in the past. Whoa, that was a force multiplier for all of us, which goes along with my grow together view, which also connects with Be a Blessing, which you teach. Um, that yes, we need to. It's like give and take. We're relying on each other, encouraging each other. We have our communities. We're building each other up through the Be a Blessing philosophy. But then also, we're raising each other up, or raising even the floor sometimes, with helping each other. Okay, so I write a post and I'm referencing someone who has this whatever they're doing, and we're connecting with each other's audiences, and we're growing together, and we're learning from each other. Oh my goodness, it's I mean, I'm probably going on a bit of a tangent, but anyway, did I answer your question?
Yeah, well, it speaks to the value of just being thoughtful and deliberate about who you with whom you invest your valuable energy, attention, and time. Um, One of the things, when I go through exercises to help people get a handle on what their relationship assets are, they will have a list of people, often family members, close friends, or coworkers that they feel like are actually a drain on their relationship asset, right? That are not supportive, that are not encouraging, that are not and fully enrolled in supporting the journey that they want to be on. And they'll often say, well, I can't divorce my mom, or I can't not speak to my spouse, or not spouse, but my brother or sister. um
Yeah.
yeah, if it's a spouse, that's a whole different thing. um but what I say is, well, I think there's two solutions to that. Number one, although like, I would never encourage anybody to ditch all of the people in their lives that don't necessarily support where they are right now, because that could just cause more harm.
Yep.
So, but you do get to decide how much of their energy, attention, and time you give them, right? So you can just
Boundaries.
put them on a minimum
Mhm.
effective, like, hey, I need to touch base with my parents, once a week for half an hour, whatever. But the other thing that I find to be really effective, and is a way to transform relationships that might not be fully supportive, is to invite them to come along. I actually did experience something around this with my wife recently. So I've been studying Stoic philosophy and reading Marcus Aurelius daily since I was in the seventh grade, which was a long time ago. It was actually just a few hundred years after Marcus Aurelius died. Okay, so I've been studying Stoicism for a while. Just a few weeks ago, she said, "Hey, can I borrow your copy of Meditations?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And she started reading this book, and my younger son, I turned him on to it many, many years ago, and now they're having like this conversation as like these two emerging stoic practitioners, students. And but it was like, it wasn't ever a point of contention, but it was just like, I don't understand all this stuff that you talk about. And so I would just say, well, you should read it. And yeah, it took 30 years for her to finally pick it up and read it, but now that she's reading it, it's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. It's helping me with, she's a trader. She trades on the stock market. And she was like, "This is really helpful for helping me in my everyday life." And so, that
Neat.
we talked about this in one of our community calls, the art of invitation. Like, you can transform a relationship just by saying, "Well, why don't you just come with me?" Like, "Oh, I don't understand this group that you hang out with every Monday and Friday. Like, what's that all about? Why do you need those people?" "Well, you should just come to one of the calls, check it out." And then
Yeah.
if they say no, now that's their decision, and you could say, "Well, I respect your decision, thank you." But
Mhm.
you gave them a chance to understand what it is that you derive, what benefit you derive from this thing that you do. So just
Neat.
one, just a couple of ideas to think about there. But yeah, you're such an active participant in our community, and I loved the situation that you shared with us on the call yesterday, and how we kind of were able to all work through that, because not only did it seem like you found it really helpful, but you could just see everybody else in the room say, "Oh my
Yes.
God, like that's I totally get that, and that is so helpful to me." Even though we're speaking to your specific situation, it's kind of a universal condition that we all
Yes.
experience.
Yeah, I was talking to another peer about it, and that I'm going to write a blog post about it. And she said, "Yeah, this is something we don't really talk about, rejection in business. How do we handle that? We don't think about it until it happens. How do you manage it?" And I'm still figuring that out, but as I write it, I will figure it out more.
Yeah. Well, I love that because I think, as I've shared with you and now kind of witnessing you doing, like, I made complete sense of myself and my business over time by writing about it
Mhm.
and broadcasting what I was
Mhm.
doing and doing broadcasts like this, like just, talking about what you're working on and what matters and how you're doing it and getting insight and inspiration from other people. So profoundly clarifying, and helps you earn confidence that you can figure it out as you go as well. Well,
Mhm.
Bree, it's always delightful to spend extra time with you. I know that we do see each other periodically, week to week, month after month. But if there were just, I always like to end with something that those that are watching either now live or in replay, most of the people that will tune into my, check out my work, tune into these broadcasts, or read the Solopreneur Success Stack, are independent business owners, independent entrepreneurs that are wanting to optimize their business so that it can better fund and fit around their lifestyle. Is there any one? And you've already shared several ideas, but is there any final uh, lesson or practice or principle that you would share with anybody that is looking for, like, what's that next step I can take to um, be just half a shade closer to where I want to be with my business?
I actually have a question for them to ponder. What do you nerd out with in your business? And
Awesome.
that might help find the next step.
Well, if you don't mind sharing, like, how has that question helped you?
Oh my goodness, it's helped me build joy in my work. I love working on this other business. I'm not saying I don't love my other business. I do. And I've built as much as I can into it that involves interest and fun. And it is great. I love that business. But this one, I love getting up and working on it, and how do you find more of that? How do you get into that more? And I think that starts with interest, and what do you nerd out with your business? We all nerd out about something, I think. So,
I love
yeah.
that because, I mean, oftentimes when we're trying to figure out, I think it's really great advice to, when that new shiny thing comes across across your frame, and you're thinking, oh, maybe I should try that. Like, the first, like, try just saying no, not now. But if it keeps coming up over and over and over again, like, it's
Yes.
probably something that's worth considering. And I just think about that in terms of my music career. There were moments, that being a professional musician is really, I mean, I would not recommend it. It's a really hard way to make a living and support a family. And there were 2 times in my career where I was like, "I am so done with this. I'm tired of, you know, cranky, sweaty guys, griping in the van on the way home from the gig that we didn't play enough of their songs, or they didn't get enough solos or whatever." And I literally, like, put my guitars under the bed, say, "That's it. I'm gonna get myself a straight gig." And, my wife would always say, "Oh, we'll s we'll see where you're at in, like, 7, 10 days." And within 2 weeks, I would be back on the phone hustling up gigs and resurrecting, my career that I actually never quit. I just, just I but that's kind of what you're speaking to, like, what's the thing that you just can't let go of? What's the thing that
Mhm.
keeps coming up over and over and over again? That's your life speaking to you because it wants to speak through you. So
Yes.
maybe pay attention to what life is
Yes.
calling you to do, and you'll probably have an easier go of it.
Yep. In other words, nerding out.
Yeah. What do you nerd out about? All right. Well, it's
Mhm.
great to spend this time with you. For those of you that are tuning in, if you have any questions or reflections to share in the replies here, feel free to do that. If you're watching in a replay on social media, YouTube, or in audio on a podcasting platform, please consider dropping your biggest lesson, aha, question, or takeaway in the comments. If you have the ability to leave a review and a rating, please give us 5 stars and share what it is about these broadcasts that you find value in. It really helps more of the right people connect with the conversations that we're having here. And there, Joseph just jumped on. Joseph, we
I
spent the
see that.
last 45 minutes talking about you, and now you're going to have to wait for the replay to see hear all the things that we said. Were they good things? Were they bad things? I don't know. We'll find out. It's Brie. You know they were all nice things. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. But Bree, thanks so much for your time today. I hope to see you on one of the upcoming weekly calls, and I know I'll see you on Saturday for the subscriber workshop. But thanks
I'll
for
be
sharing
there.
some of your insight and wisdom with us today.
Thank you for having me. Take care, everyone.